Good morning, class. This is Mr. Harris with your week 3 of developmental psychology. So, this is developmental lecture number 3. This week's will be a little bit shorter as we're only really going to talk about one person and his theories as relating to development. This is also what your project you'll be working on this week will be over. So, the man we're learning about this week, his name was Erikson. Not actually his birth name. And he lived from 1902 until 1994. So, had a very long life and then died about, 25 years ago. And he was very influential in the field of psychosocial development. His family was originally from Germany, a wealthy Jewish German family, but unfortunately they had to leave due to persecution because of his Jewish identity. Later on in life, he would actually marry a Christian woman. I believe he would convert, which maybe comes up in some of his theories as well a little bit. And he started from a psychoanalytic, the Freudian perspective. Remember the id, ego, superego, we're repressing our true feelings, all that kind of stuff. That was the most popular form of psychology when he was becoming a scholar. And so that's where he started from. But he's going to study other fields, including anthropology, to expand upon his thinking. So his theory is based on 8 stages of development, and we call it the psychosocial development theory. And it's based on the idea that development through life is a series of stages which are each defined by a crisis or challenge. The early stages provide the foundations for later stages, so Erikson says that if a child does not resolve a crisis in a particular stage, they will have problems in later stages. For example, if an adolescent does not establish their own identity, they have a difficulty in relationships as an adult. And here is this the stages right now, but we're going to go through each one of these. But if you can always go back to this slide, or they'll have this up at the end as well, to look at what these ones are. And it gives you the approximate ages as well. See, there's a lot in early adulthood and then less and less over time. So the first stage that Erikson identifies, and the one you'll also be working on first, is called trust versus mistrust. And this stage is from the time you're born till about 1 year old. And in this, the conflict you have to overcome is, should you trust the world, or is the world a mistrustful place? The most important event is feeding, and the most important relationship is with the mother. The infant must develop a loving, trusting relationship with the mother caregiver through feeding, teething, and comforting. And failing to resolve this conflict can lead to sensory distortion and withdrawal. So, can I trust the world and the people around me? If you cry out and someone comes for you, you learn to trust things. If people are nice to you as a baby, you learn to trust the world. When your needs are not being met and they're being met with anger, that's when you become distrustful of the entire world. Our second stage is about autonomy versus shame and doubt. Can you do things on your own, or are you embarrassed of yourself? And Erikson puts this in the toddler stages. And again, the basic conflict is autonomy versus shame and doubt. He says the most important event is toilet training, and the important relationship is still with the parents. The child's energy is directed towards mastering physical skills such as walking, grasping, muscular control. The child learns self control but may develop shame, doubt, impulsivity, or compulsion if not handled correctly. Can you do things on your own, or are you incapable of doing them, and then are you ashamed of your actions or your inabilities? So, some things you might see in this stage, okay, picking out their own clothes and dressing themselves. I get to pick. Developing food preferences of their own. That's yucky. I like this. Okay, choosing which toys they like by themselves, and then again mastering toilet training. Early psychologists were kind of obsessed with potty training and toilet training. I'm not sure if that is still as relevant today. Most of us, it happened before we were conscious of thinking of our memories, so we're not sure about it. But Freud and Erikson, they're all very much into this big milestone of potty training. The next stage is called initiative versus guilt. And this happens in your preschool ages through about kindergarten, so age 3 to 6. And the basic conflict is initiative, doing things on your own, versus guilt. Okay. And the important event is independence. Okay. Being yourself without others, especially without your family. And the important relationship is still, though, with the family. And so during this stage, the child continues to become more assertive in exploration, discovery, adventure, and play. The child may show too much force in this stage, causing feelings of guilt, pushing over their friends, not sharing, and stuff like that. Failure to resolve this conflict can lead to ruthlessness and inhibition. And if you've hung out with like toddlers, preschool age kids, they're kind of savages. They don't like to share, things like that. So these have to be trained into them. Okay. And this is something we'll see again later on. Am I good or bad? Okay. So you play with people, you explore the world, you get to figure out and try on different roles, and hopefully you learn that you're a good person who should be loved. Now, the next stage is called industry versus inferiority. Can you do things or are you inferior to others? And this is ages 6 to 12. So we think about our school ages, first grade through about seventh or eighth here. And the basic conflict in this stage is industry versus inferiority. The important event is school. Important relationships are teachers, friends, and the greater neighborhood. The child must learn to deal with new skills and develop a sense of achievement and accomplishment. Failure to do so can create a sense of inferiority, failure, and incompetence. Am I smart? Okay. Am I good? Think about those labels we attach to kids in this age group. Okay. How can I be good or bad? If you show competence, you'll gain more self esteem. So, kids that aren't good at school, whether that's because they're not getting the support at home, bad genetics, whatever it is, they often feel bad about themselves as a total person because that's kind of what you're being judged on in this age. It's not the most important thing, but that is how we judge kids, is how well they're doing at school. Our next one is during adolescence, and this is the stage that Erikson would say all of you guys are in right now, and that is identity versus role confusion. So, ages 12 to 20, the basic conflict is about this identity versus role confusion. The important event is development of peer relationships, and the important relationships are peers, groups, and social influences. Your friends, your friends, your friends, the other kids around you. Your parents and your teachers matter way less in this stage as far as your own personal happiness. The teenager must achieve a sense of identity in occupation, sex roles, politics, and religion. In addition, they must resolve their identity and direction. Who am I? Where do I fit in? What group am I supposed to be with? Many of us have gone through stages or phases when we're super into something or dressed a certain way and wanted everyone to know it because we're trying on these different roles. Am I going to be, the future lawyer? Am I going to be one of the hood kids? Is that going to be, am I a geek? What's my identity? Today, I think there's more fluidity between different groups than there were in the past, but it's still kind of important to figure out, who am I? Where do I fit in? Failure to make these resolutions can lead to the repression of aspects of the individual for the sakes of others. So you're burying part of yourself, and people can become fanatic and crazy as well if they don't resolve this properly. People in this age are very vulnerable to cult like leaders and things like that. Okay, who am I? And you see, I'm looking at like, what outfit should I be? Which group should be fitting into? And then the most important thing is, do I have friends? I am validated by people thinking I'm cool, I'm popular. That's kind of the most important thing when you're in high school. The next stage is in during your young adulthood, although it says it goes to 40 years old, and intimacy versus isolation. Can I find someone who I love and who loves me, or will I be forever alone? The important event is parenting, and the important relationships are lovers, friends, and work connections. In this stage, the individual must develop intimate relationships through work and social life. Failure to make such connections can lead to promiscuity, exclusivity, and isolation. Okay, so what Erikson is calling for is that you develop normal monogamous relationships. He's kind of speaking down about alternative lifestyles a little bit here, but can you find those positive, long term, intimate relationships with people, not only with lovers, but also with friends and things like that? Or will you slide into a life of being kind of a loner alone? Okay, and unfortunately, this happens to a lot of people, especially when they're done with their schooling, whether that be college or high school. If you're not forced to make social connections with people, they kind of find themselves a little bit alone. Will I be loved or will I be alone? Important event is the romantic relationships. Very, very hard question to answer, and really difficult for some people to get the correct answer and find the right person for them. Okay, our next stage we call middle adulthood, generativity versus stagnation. Are you helping the world or are you staying still? Okay, the basic conflict is generativity versus stagnation. The important event is parenting, and the important relationships are those of the children and the community. This stage is based on the idea that each adult must find a way to satisfy and support and contribute to the next generation. It's been often thought of as giving back. Failure to resolve the stage can lead to overextension or rejectivity. Okay, so you're by this stage, Erikson hopes you're married, you have kids. Now, are you giving your kids everything they need to go on to the next one? If you don't have kids, are you still supporting the world in a different way? Okay. How can I contribute to the world? So Erikson says that by parenthood and work is the most important thing. I know not everyone feels like they have to have kids to be happy. Okay, but giving way or giving it or figuring out a way to contribute to the world in some way is very important. All right, then Erikson's last stage. Maturity, integrity versus despair. Age 65 to death. And Erikson lived till 92, so he had about 27 years in this stage. The basic conflict is ego integrity versus despair. The important event is reflection and acceptance of the individual's life. Did I live a good life? Did I do the things I wanted to do? Did I contribute to others? Did I have loving relationships? Did I make the world a better place? Or I didn't do those things. I didn't reach out. I didn't ask that person. I never did the things I truly wanted to do. So the individual is creating meaning and purpose of one's life and reflecting on life achievements. Failure to resolve this conflict can create feelings of disdain and despair. Okay? So did I live a meaningful life? And if you did, you can reflect back on life and give other people great wisdom. Now, there is some criticism, of course. So, most of the research was based on white, European, and American middle to upper class males. So, that's going to bias things somewhat. And also, some people would argue these things don't necessarily happen in this order. So, here is his theory once again, giving the ages, the danger, all the kind of stuff there. And this week, you will be creating something that will explain this theory. Now, something that is not a Google slideshow. This could look like the Freudian Psych book you did before. This could be a short story. This could be a video. This could be all sorts of things, a song. I want you guys to be as creative as possible and explain what's happening in each stage, what the conflict is, what can go wrong in those stages. Again, I want creativity. So I'll be putting these assignments up along with some additions that go with Erikson, and this is our assignment for this week. Hope you guys all have a great week, and please email me if you have any questions.